Greetings, this is Sensei Matthew. Welcome to Nerd News Today. And on this episode, we are taking a look at the brand new action figures from the Karate Kid by Icon Heroes. Stand to attention, and let's take a look at these action figures. These figures are based on the classic Karate Kid film starring Ralph Macchio and Billy Zabka, along with Martin Kove, my favorite, as Kreese. What's important to note is that this is the very first action figures ever from the company Icon Heroes. They've never done this before. They've mostly done a lot of things like stationery and pins. This is the first time they're jumping into the articulated figure market. So we're going to see whether or not they cut the mustard or if they need to drop back down to white belt. The Karate Kid has had a lot of figures in the past, including the originals by Remco back when the Karate Kid cartoon series came out. And in more recent times, Funko did their reaction style figures of the film. And even more recently than that, NECA has gotten into the game with their versions of the toys as well, and Diamond Select is also doing some figures now based on Cobra Kai. Icon Heroes has some big shoes to fill in this market, so let's see if they can handle the weight. But before we go too deep into this review first, I need to remind you, if you'd like to buy these figures or any other figures like this, head on over to Big Bad Toy Store. We've got an affiliate link in the description below, so make sure to check them out. So first things first, let's jump into the packaging. The boxes are incredibly small and actually kind of remind me of a VHS tape, which I think is really cool. They don't look anything like the original Karate Kid VHS, of course, but based on the size and shape of it, you can very much imagine a video cassette being inside these things. You've got the famous Karate Kid crane kick on each side of the packaging, along with a very nice image of the figure on the front, and some action photos of the figures, respectively, on the back, doing various poses, and showing off that these hopefully will have some very excellent articulation. What I like very much about these figures is that they all have an open window display. So basically, you guys can see here, there's a little Velcro tab, you open it up like a door, and that allows you to see right inside the packaging, which makes it very collector friendly and very awesome to look at as a display piece just in the box alone. You can see all the accessories, which include some different heads, some different hands. There's a lot going on here, and it's all very nicely packaged. But there are no mint-on-card collectibles here at the Nerd News Today dojo. So let's go ahead and open up these figures, take them out of the box, and get a better look at them in action. I'll see you at the All Valley Tournament. All right, and here are our Karate Kid figures now out of the box. We got our Daniel Larusso, we've got our Johnny Lawrence here. So these are looking pretty striking right out of the box. That's an unintended pun here, but these are very good looking figures first glance, for first attempt especially. But let's start first things first with the likenesses. How do the likenesses look? And I use plural because one of the accessories included with these figures are 3 heads. Each guy has 3 total heads. So how do these likenesses look? Well, let's start with Daniel-san over here and get a better look at him. So does this look like Ralph Macchio? Absolutely, 100%. Does our Johnny Lawrence look like Mr. Zabka? 100%. Yes, it does. Both of these sculpts here are very impressive. These are excellent, excellent head sculpts. Like, I'm really blown away by how good these head sculpts are. There's some very solid detail work in both these figures, and also very excellent paint jobs. I mean, it's very subtle in both their faces, too. They kept the paint jobs very simple, and also, by doing so, keeping it very clean. There's no highlight, there's no weathering, it's just kind of flat color here, but it works, that's fine. And the eyes are also done very nicely, and the reason I'm bringing up the eyes, we'll get to in a minute, but these eyes have got a really nice sparkle to them, so very, very good, excellent head sculpts. The hair, likewise, also is really good. I really like the hair on all these guys. I mean, I think Daniel Larusso has like a more finer, detailed kind of hair, as opposed to Johnny Lawrence, who's got a little bit of a thicker sculpt with the hair, but it all looks like their hair. It absolutely works. And I guess as part of the face sculpt, we have to talk about the bandanas that they each have too. Man, we're going to be jumping around a lot in this review, I think, because there's a lot to discuss. But bandanas they both have. Highly detailed, very clean, nice paint job on Daniel's head bandana, because it's got a lot of little tiny dots in there. It's got a lot of stippling going on. And that looks excellent. So really from every angle, I think they got these figures down. They got the looks of all the actors. I'd say 125%. Yes, 125%. It's that good. I think these head sculpts are really good. Getting our Daniel-san to stand has been a little of a challenge, but I think the head sculpts are really, really nicely done. Let's get them closer and take a face off. How about that? Let's see how they look. I should add too, don't worry too much about them staying up straight. That's partly my fault and the fault of my setup because of how I film here. It's a little bit of a janky setup. But you guys can see here just really good likenesses from all angles really. Like, yeah, no complaints here about these particular head sculpts. But what about the other head sculpts? Well, that's where things do get a little iffier. So let's just rearrange our figures for a moment here. Let's start with Johnny, since he seems to be falling over the most at the moment. Let's focus on our Johnny figure. So Johnny comes with 2 additional head sculpts for 3 total. Here is Angry Face Johnny. Angry Face Johnny is also very good. I like this likeness a lot. Good expression. I actually think I like this one maybe a little better. Hard to say if I like it better or worse, but they really did capture his look. Like, that looks like Angry Johnny. I can like almost pinpoint the scene where this face came from. It's his third head that's a little bit of a problem because it's his third head that makes him look like Marty Feldman. So something here again, the sculpting is great. The sculpting I have no problems with. The issue here is his eyes. You can see one eye's looking straight, the other one is wandering off somewhere else, checking out I don't know what. He must see Daniel San in the window somewhere and he's like, oh, I'm gonna get that guy. But yeah, unfortunately, the paint job on this eye, it's a little wonky. It's not terrible, but it is a little noticeably wonky, and that's a little bit of a detractor here. So what about our Daniel San? He has already, you guys can see, very good head sculpt here. I think that's a good head sculpt. Here is his other head, which, you know, to be fair, this is like the most Ralph Macchio head sculpt ever on a Ralph Macchio figure. Like, this is his blank, vapid facial expression that he has so often throughout the movie, but it's a legit expression he had, and it looks very good. Like, this one to me is almost better than the one that's already on him, but they're both really good. I mean, these look like young Ralph Macchio. Like, they really captured it. It's really impressive how good these two heads look. But then we get to head number 3, and again, he's got some Marty Feldman syndrome going on here. It's pronounced Igor, folks, Igor. So again, this eye, little wonky, and I hate that because I think the head sculpts are, again, amazing. The paint and all of them, the detail on the hair, the bandana, like all the paint job is excellent overall. The sculpting is like blowing me away. But these eyeballs, oh man, these eyes. So, that brings us to a little insert right here now to discuss what's going on with these. Now, if I may be serious for a moment, okay, well, give me a moment. Now, if I may be serious for a moment about these head sculpts, they are very, very excellent head sculpts, but yeah, it's a pretty huge turnoff when I open this box and I see both of them having some paint issues on those heads, and they're both pretty big paint issues. So the thing is here, I don't want to give Icon Heroes a pass on this because this is their first figure. This is a fairly high-end collectible in terms of the price that you're paying for these toys. But also on that same token, I have seen a lot of figures from companies like NECA, from companies like Mattel, that have had far worse head sculpts that made it into major stores. I'm talking like Targets and Walmarts, things like that. So how much of a pass can I give on a head that looks like this? That's a tough call. You know, unfortunately, I do have to knock some points off for it, but the rest of the figures are looking very good. So really, my point here is that, yeah, it's their first foray. Hopefully they will get their stuff together for the next bunch of figures that they do. Maybe they'll improve their quality control, and they'll make sure that this mistake doesn't happen again in the future, because I really don't want to see anything like this again, because otherwise this figure is really, really great top to bottom, as you guys are seeing. So I'm not giving it a pass, but I am saying if you do want to pick up this figure, maybe be a little bit careful, and I also say maybe check out some other folks' reviews of this toy as well, just to see if they had any issues like I'm having here, because to be quite honest, it could just be an isolated incident. It is just unfortunate that my luck would have it that both figures would have those weird mispainted heads. So do some more research. If anything, buy it from a place that you can do returns or exchanges from, or if you're able to find it in a store especially, that might be the best way to really do your own quality control inspection on the toy before purchasing it. Alright, so that's enough about the heads though. Let's talk about the rest of the pieces here. Let's talk about what else is going on here, and that is a lot of other details. So let's just look at their uniforms real quickly also. You know, Daniel San's uniform does not have a ton of detail. Really, most of the attention detail went into the Cobra Kai figures, because there's a little more paint dap there. You've also got the Cobra Kai badge, which is painted very nicely. The Johnny is a little bit off center, but that's not really that bad. I'm not really worrying too much about that. What is really nice is if you scroll down here to his pants, you can see a lot of really cool patches on there, which are really great. Very nice attention to detail there. Same on this side. I mean, they squeezed, I feel like, everything in there, and it looks very good, very clean application. But most importantly, of course, with your Cobra Kai figures, you got to have the Cobra Kai logo on the back of the jacket. And how good does that look? Tell me how good that looks. Like, that's just spot on. I love this. Like, there's such great detail on the Johnny figure because there's so much to work with, and I think they really got all the parts in there. Like, it looks really good. Now, as for our Daniel San, you know, he's a lot cleaner. It's just basically a white gi, and that's about it, really, from the front. There's not much else there. I mean, you got a really nice belt. They both share, I think, the same sculpt for that belt. You know, not a ton of detail because there wasn't really much on his uniform at this point. All there is would be the Miyagi family bonsai tree in the back. And again, that also looks very nice, really nicely executed. Good paint job. And you guys already saw it earlier, but you can see it again now. Look how clean that looks. Like, that's gorgeous. That's excellent there. It boggles my mind even more how they had those QC problems with the eyeballs when you've got such like tiny little paint dap like that, and it looks fine. And, you know, again, even that Johnny Lawrence being off center, it still otherwise looks like amazing. Like, no slop, nothing wrong with it. So it just is so bizarre to me how they could have these issues. And yeah, I don't get it. But yeah, we already talked about that. Let's move on. And let's move on to articulation, in fact, because that's something we haven't talked about yet, and this is like out of this world articulation. So the back of the packaging doesn't actually tell you how many points of articulation there are, which is kind of a surprise, because to me, I feel like they would want to boast like crazy about how articulated these figures are, because I feel like these might rival Ultimate Edition WWE figures, and that's saying a lot. So why do I say that? Well, let's go ahead and let's use our Johnny Lawrence maybe as the example. So he has a ball-jointed head, which is also very, very stiff out the box. Oh, there we go. You hear that? I got paint my hand from that. That was rough. He has a ball-jointed head, so it can move around all the directions. Ball-jointed shoulders. You've got a double-jointed bicep for a great articulation there. You've got flexible wrist as well. They are wearing gis. You would think that would restrict their motion, but no, they built that into the figure. So you can move that. The waist moves also. The legs. Look at that, full-on split. Excuse me, Daniel-san. Full-on split. Oh, he's going all the way. He went all the way. I've never done it with the figure before. I've had figures that do that, but not like this. Like, that is a full, legitimate split. I don't think we've ever really seen it with any of the figures I've had, and that's, oof, man, that is impressive. Let's talk. Oh, look at those kicks. Oh my God, this is amazing. I am into this. You've also got double-jointed knees. Of course, you need to have that. Ankles are flexible. And finally, best of all, the toe joint, because yeah, if you're doing martial arts, you gotta have your toes kicking the right way. And that's correct. Like, this is, wow. This is some amazing articulation. Again, keep in mind, this is a first time figure from Icon Heroes, and they're nailing it on everything. Look at this. This is so good. See if we can rotate it over to make it a, oh man. You guys, I'm in heaven here. This is amazing. This is wonderful articulation. Wow. I'm kind of speechless. That's how good this is. Let's swap some parts out with Johnny's to show you what that's going to look like. We'll just do like a few hands here and there. We'll do a palm strike hand. That hand came out very easily, and I'm hoping they go back in, yeah, just as easily. Wha-bam, palm strike. Let's swap out a head now as well. Let's see if that's any worse for the wear. We'll try our action head here. And again, very easy, very nice. Like, this is good. This is very nice. And let's try the same with our Daniel-san also. Let's pop out one of his heads here. And let's put in our Vapid Ralph Macchio head. It's a tight fit, but you got it. And I think I'm gonna put in a chopping hand also. Let's try this out. Oh man, yeah, these figures are ready for battle. Look at this, you guys. This is, wow. So much articulation. Other than the heads, very good paint detail. Oh, rather, other than the little eyeball issue. This is great looking, man. Like, for first-time figures, these don't look like first-timers. This looks like somebody's been doing this for a while. So these are looking excellent, but I want to do something else here before we wrap this video up here. That's comparisons with a few other toys, because really the question is how big are these toys and how well they fit in with other lines. So for sake of comparison, I'm going to get them in some neutral poses here. I'm going to bring in just a few other figures from other lines. It's going to be some odd characters here and there that really don't fit in with our Karate Kid movie people, but we're just going to try it just for the sake of argument, figuring out how big these guys are and what they scale up with. So not that long ago on the channel, we looked at Bill and Ted action figures from Incendium Online. And these were 5-inch figures, and you'll excuse me, I'm missing their hands. They fell out while I was getting them ready, and I just didn't feel like putting them back in. So handless Bill and Ted figures. And yeah, so these guys are definitely bigger than the Bill and Ted's. But how do they look next to a WWE Mattel Elite figure? Here is a much older figure. This is a Terry Funk from many, many lines ago, all the way over here. Zoom out for that. So there we go. We got some other figures in here now. So they do scale up with the 6-inch guys, because they are meant to be 6-inch figures. But my real concern was just how they look compared to them, because they are supposed to be teenagers. And you know, I think we're going to get Bill and Ted out of the way, just get them side by side to Foley and Funk. So yeah, I mean, they're meant to be teenagers, so they shouldn't be as tall as adults necessarily. So yeah, you guys can see here, they're not. They're a little bit shorter than the adult figures, and that's, I think, how it should be. I think they need to look that way. So in one corner, we have Cactus Jack and Daniel Larusso, and in the other corner, we've got Johnny Lawrence and Terry Funk. Well, that's kind of perfect, actually, isn't it? So yeah, in terms of size comparisons, here's how they fit in among 6-inch figures. They fit in, I think, just fine. So, final thoughts on these figures, and by the way, you guys notice the camera just changed. That's because my battery died. I'm now using my phone, so sorry about that, everybody. But final thoughts on our figures here, our Johnny Lawrence and our Daniel LaRusso here. So these are, I'd say, pretty darn amazing figures, especially if you consider this is a first time for Icon Heroes doing this. Icon Heroes does have great attention to detail. We've seen it with all their stationary work, with their pins as well. They're doing some really, really great knockout work. Did it translate over to action figures? I would say definitely. I would say absolutely. I mean, the articulation rivals that of the Jazzwares AEW figures. Even rivals the Mattel Ultimate Edition figure. I think the sculpting detail is very, very, very good. It's on par with NECA. I don't want to say necessarily I like it more than NECA, but I think it's a really, really good head sculpt for all the figures. I mean, even with the paint issues, they're really great. That is just kind of the main problem here, is those wonky paint issues. I mean, when you guys have a head that's like this, and you've got one eye going one way and another eye going another direction, it's a big problem. And I have to hope that they can fix that in QC for later figures, and I hope that they do make more figures, because I want to see what else Icon Heroes can do. But yeah, it is a little bit of a detractor, and it's unfortunate because I was going to actually give these figures probably like a 9.5 or a 10 even. I mean, maybe not a 10. It's probably closer to a 9. But I'd say because of the head issue and because those paint jobs are funky on both figures, I got to knock them down to an 8. I'd even go as low as like a 7.5, but I think 8 is pretty solid. I think 8's pretty fair. But I would have loved to give it a higher rating because I think they're that good. I mean, the articulation is nuts on these things. And, you know, again, these are the debut figures for Icon Heroes, which means they can only go up from here. So if they can get the QC issue figured out, if they can work on some of their paint issues like that, and if they can get some really interesting licenses, I think we're going to see a lot more from Icon Heroes, and I've got a lot of hope and a lot of optimism that they're going to be a real force for adult collector figures. Now, that said, too, we haven't talked about this yet. Is the price worth it? Because these guys are a little expensive. I think these were $40 plus shipping from Icon Heroes' website. Is that a fair price? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to compare this to Ultimate Edition figures, in fact. And Ultimate Editions from Mattel are about $35 now, depending where you get them from. That's with tax included. I'm not including tax or shipping costs with these guys, but I don't think the prices are too far off. If you keep in mind, too, these are limited runs. These are much smaller runs in Mattel. I think $40 is not bad at all. I'm going to compare that to Super 7, who have the gall to charge now $55 plus shipping and everything else, which I think is kind of insane. I think for the price these guys are, it's fair. I think it's a fair price. I think it's valid. So, yeah, you know, really no complaints about that either. I think they're definitely worth it. I'm very impressed by these first figures by Icon Heroes, and I really do want to see more from them. And if you are a fan of these Karate Kid figures, by the way, I should add that they did release at San Diego, I think it was a 4-pack or maybe a 5-pack of the rest of Cobra Kai, which included Kreese. So, yeah, you can actually get the entire family if you want, and I'm hoping eventually they'll get to maybe doing other characters from the other Karate Kid movies, and especially I need to have Mr. Miyagi. So, fingers crossed these do well, and I definitely recommend these. So if you want to pick them up for yourself, go ahead and check out our Big Bad Toy Store affiliate link in our description below. We're going to have links also for a few other places, including Icon Heroes, so you can pick them up directly from them. So please consider doing that. I really want this line to succeed. I want more figures from Icon Heroes, so don't miss out on these figures. They are really, really great. I can't get over how good they look. And I think if you get these in your hands as well, you're going to feel the same way that I do. So that's our look at Icon Heroes' very first action figures of the Karate Kid. Daniel Larusso, Johnny Lawrence. They are awesome. You cannot beat these figures, you guys, so go out and get them. I highly recommend them. So until next time, this is Matthew, and this has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later.